Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our third session of the day, Parent Literacy in a Pandemic, Challenges and Successes. My name is Kito. I will be your moderator for today. Your presenters are Kim Hollers from Goodwill Industries, Dr. Elizabeth Isidro from the Dorothy McGinnis Reading Clinic, and Taylor Sayers, our Parent Literacy Navigator from the KLC. So we have the chat that's open. So if you guys wouldn't mind, if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to use the chat. I will be keeping an eye on that, and if appropriate, we'll address your question as it comes up. Otherwise, there should be a few minutes at the end where we will be able to, or your presenters will be able to address any questions you guys might have. So with that, I'm going to mute myself and turn it over to our wonderful presenters for today. Again, thanks for attending.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to our session. We are presenting on parent literacy in a pandemic, challenges and opportunities. Before we start, I'd like to spend a moment to hold in our hearts those who have been impacted by COVID-19, as well as racial and social injustice. These are big issues that confront our society today, and our work in promoting literacy in our community is meaningless if we fail to address these systemic and bigger issues that members of our community also face. We are all in this together, and we are working towards a better future for all members of our community. One more thing before we start, let's introduce ourselves to the audience so they will have some background about what we do. I guess I'll start. I am Elizabeth Isidro, and I am an assistant professor of literacy studies at Western Michigan University. I also serve as the director of the McGinnis Reading Center at WMU. Kim?
Good morning. My name is Kim Hollers. I am the Adult Education and Training Manager with Goodwill Industries of Southwest Michigan. I'm also an ABE GED instructor with Kalamazoo Public Schools, where I have the opportunity to work with the Youth Opportunities Unlimited and their GED program. Taylor?
Hi, everyone. My name is Taylor. I am the Parent Literacy Navigator at the Kalamazoo Literacy Council. And when we first started this project, I was just an intern from the Bachelor of Social Work program at Western, and I joined professionally in July. Thank you for having me.
So you can see we come from different backgrounds to launch and sustain the PL classes, even during this pandemic. And we probably weren't thinking about it as much, but well, especially when we first started, but these past few months or several months were times when we really had to rely on each other and each other's expertise. It reminded me of what synergy means. So 1 + 1 is not really 2, but so much more. So our collaborative work was what really enabled us to work through the challenges that we encountered and found solutions, or what we call as opportunities. And you'll know more about these opportunities during the presentation. But these were the opportunities that we found, or we saw, as we supported families during these difficult times. So we are excited to share with you these our experiences, and I will turn you over to Kim to get us started.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So yes, we are very excited to be here and to share our experiences with you, especially with the parent literacy and some of those challenges that we came across, as well as that led to some great opportunities. So as educators and tutors and volunteers, we all have a role in helping our adults that we're serving. And with that, there's also those personal goals that they came to us with, and we want to be supportive for that. And also because we look at parent literacy together, and the Kalamazoo Literacy Council and adult education, we look at that as have the opportunity to look at it in a lens from a 2-gen perspective. We want to meet the goals and encourage our parents to be the best first teachers of their children, and so that they can be more confident and capable and feeling like they have those skills that are necessary. And with that being said, one of those challenges that came across are that families may feel that they don't have enough time in their day, to really support their children, or they're not armed with enough necessary skills to support their children. And looking at this, it provided us, we sat down, we talked, and it provided us with some opportunities that we could use. And I like this opportunity because it's learning on the go, anytime, anywhere approach. So it empowers families, to realize that they have a lot of skills that they're already using, and sometimes just bringing them to the forefront makes them, oh, I am doing this. So it does empower our families. So you might ask yourself, how do we know a learner or one of our learners that is a parent may have a fear or may not, or may feel this way? We do an adult learning plan interview, and that interview is not just a check the box type questionnaire. It's a deep conversation to get to know the individual themselves as well as their family and their goals. And with that conversation and the follow-ups, it also gives us a better understanding of what the strengths and weaknesses are in that individual and their family. So, excuse me. So where we went from here is we took that learning on the go opportunity, and we were able to provide asking questions to the parents that we're serving, and asking them, what does your day look like? And then taking the activities that they have throughout the day and providing opportunities or examples of what they use or what they could do for their children that are at home, and how they could better support them. And we found that, even in your home, some of those examples would have been in your home, like maybe you're sorting laundry, have your children sort laundry by colors, feel the textures of them. So providing those examples, like are talking about hot and cold water, what floats in water, what doesn't float in water. You're consistently asking questions in the things that you're doing throughout the day to provide those learning on the go opportunities. You can also do this outside. I would say use the senses that you were given. Use the hearing and the sight and the smell and the touch. Use those senses outside and ask questions. While you're asking questions, you're building that communication between you and your child, building the relationship as you're going and you're interacting with your child. Whether you're looking at the sizes on the leaves, why does this leaf, or why do these trees change color and the other ones don't? Ask, once again, you're still asking those questions and providing opportunity and letting your child think about why something is. So having them come up with those answers. And I say it's problem solving, and it's critical thinking, it's being more proactive. It could be at the grocery store. So we took the time to pull out things from daily activities that parents shared with us and provided so that they had those learning on the go opportunities. And it was more purposeful in what they're doing. So it wasn't that they had to add extra time to their day. It was more about how you can reorganize that learning on the go, the activities that you're doing throughout the day, and make them more purposeful for yourself and for your children. In addition to that, I always say, how again does this become 2-gen? How are we looking at this from a 2-gen perspective or a multi-generational perspective? While you're doing these activities, think about what the parent and the child, they're having that conversation. So there's that oral communication that you're building on. You're building that vocabulary, as well as that problem solving, those critical skills. And those, as an adult, are important, especially when families, or when our adult learner that is also a parent, it has a goal of maybe achieving their GED. These are skills that you need for that GED. They're also lifelong longing, because they permeate into the family or into your children as well. It translates into that. So one of the next challenges that we came across was, so the parent literacy team knew that those first 5-6 years of a child's life, that development is very important, especially in this time right now where you have COVID and there's not, some parents have their children at home all the time because you're not going to childcare, or you're not dropping them off at childcare, or you're working from home. So looking back and asking questions about how do you know if your child is developing appropriately or meeting those those age appropriate milestones. So, and they may not even be aware that, even that first year, there are cognitive, academic, social, emotional, physical abilities milestones that your children should meet. So how do you know that you're meeting them? And we asked this question to our parents, and some, they gave us some really good feedback. So it brought us into an opportunity where we could use some tools, and this is not limited to, but we could use some tools to provide a discussion, a lesson with parent literacy and talking about those milestones. So we brought in Talking is Teaching. They have a great, very simplistic, very, excuse me, milestones that we printed off that we could share with the parents so that they look at it and you could say, oh, my child falls within this 4-month age. Are they doing these things? So they could look at this, and it also provided some activities that a parent could utilize or implement into their day to help strengthen that development area. We also talked about the ASQ, and there was 2 different types. We talked about the ASQ, the social emotional, and then we also talked about the ASQ3. I think this one was really important because child care providers use this in their child care centers. Your pediatrician may send this to you prior to a well child check, looking at the question for the ASQ questionnaire. But why are you getting this? Once again, it goes back to the development. Is my child developing, at the rate that it should be? Are we meeting the milestones that we should be doing? But if you don't know why and you don't understand the questionnaire, it was kind of more, once again, one of those check the boxes. So walking through that questionnaire and working with the parents on why you're giving this, why you're doing this questionnaire, what are these questions, and answering these questions and how to answer those questions. But there's also that piece in there where a parent can also say, okay, I might have some concerns in this area. So they can write those concerns down, and then sharing opportunities with what would I, if I take this back to my pediatrician, what questions do I ask? So providing example questions for the questionnaire on, once you get the results of the actual questionnaire. This questionnaire, the ASQ, is in multiple different languages, which I think is great, but more importantly, it's written at a level for almost all learners to be able to understand. And that's what I think is great about it. And but it allows for that development, and you can do that questionnaire at different segments of your child's as they progress in age. Let's see. So these tools, and in addition with the Kalamazoo Public Schools, if anybody's ever went to the site, you know that there's a Kalamazoo Public Schools strategic plan. It has multiple sections, and it has 5 different sections actually, but I wanted to focus on the strategic plan and the expectations for children. Once again, another great site to go to, just to glance at, to say, hey, my birth to a 1-year-old child, for cognitive, how many books do I have? How many books are being included in his or her daily life? Are we doing what is necessary? And is my child progressing at the appropriate age? So that ages and stages, the KPS strategic plan expectation, the Talking is Teaching milestones, and providing the background of what these are about and why we would use them, or why a parent would use them, was very empowering for the parents that we were working with, as well as going back to, I'm going to go to that 2-gen piece of that, thinking about, okay, how does this relate? It does relate. All of these tools that we share can be used with our parents, with our educators, with our tutors, volunteers, so that these can be implemented into the lessons that they're working with already, as well as it also enhances that vocabulary once again, or reinforces it, those comprehension skills, the reading skills that you're going through. Only this time it's not just the communication skills, you're looking at the oral and written communication skills that a parent needs, for their personal goals that they're trying to meet. And it's supporting that 2-gen approach that we're looking at. So we want to take the tools that we have and make that an opportunity so that we can teach concepts and skills that our parents can also teach to their children as well. So these are just a couple of the challenges and just a few of the opportunities that we came out of with this. And I mean, there's so many more, but we wanted to break it really, bring it in or tighten it up a little bit so we weren't all over the place. But so with that being said, I would like to pass this off, and I'm going to have Taylor talk about some other challenges that we came across.
Challenge 3 may look familiar to you if you've ever tried to get even 2 busy people in a meeting together, let alone trying to band together the 100% of KLC parents that we are committed to serving. Having a common time that was consistently available for families to attend was something that was very difficult. Parents wear numerous hats and have tons of different scheduling constraints, but we were making sure to take numerous measures that allow us to have class offerings at a time that could be convenient for the most amount of families. And with that, we continue to expand on capabilities that could provide class offerings and learning opportunities that could fit anybody's schedule. So we had to figure out how can we do this best? And that really led us to the opportunity, which was surveying availability and expanding services to engage families where they already are. So with that first piece, to determine the availability of families, we contacted every parent that was in the KLC universe and maintained a really elaborate spreadsheet that tracked the day they were contacted, the mode, was it phone, text, email, and then the time of day. So if I wasn't able to reach them in the first try, I made sure to go back and try at a different time, because we know that they're busy people and we know that we need to give numerous opportunities to reach them. Once we had that set of parents that expressed interest, we then gave a few options for times and surveyed their preferences. During the first session of parent literacy, the time that really came out was Tuesdays from 6 to 7 p.m. And in the following 3 iterations, that time has held steady as a time that seems to work for many parents. And then with an additional help from our ESL navigator, Jackie Denoyer, we were able to expand services where families already are. We have a huge population of English as a second language learners within the KLC, and many of them are parents. But they also attend classes, some of them 2 to 4 times a week. And that's a lot to ask someone to come to an additional class that they know nothing about. So instead, I worked with Jackie to come into a class that they were already attending. And during the month of August, we offered 2 unique parent literacy sessions inside their class each week. Through that, I was able to build relationships with the families that were attending. And when we offered classes in the fall, I brought them into our parent literacy sessions, and it was enough to even bring on a morning session. So we added on an additional morning session to complement the night session for parents that had either availability. The next challenge is the difficulties, excuse me, of cultivating a sense of community within a virtual setting. So when we're restricted to existing with each other inside of a computer screen, it is definitely harder to feel connected. In person, you go to an event and there's mingling, there might be refreshments. You can show up early or you can stay late and talk to people one-on-one about things that are unrelated. You can more organically form peer relationships and feel connected to people in that way. In the virtual setting, that's a lot more difficult. Often a room is only open a couple minutes before the meeting and a couple minutes after. And even if it were open longer, you're busy and it's easier to be home and need to go tend to the things that are already in your home. So the other issue that we found is that people are in their homes and they have a lot of other things that they need to tend to. If you are someone who maybe worked in an office previously and have had to work at home either during a portion during this pandemic or during the entire pandemic, you might know that it's hard when you don't have a dedicated space to do your work. It's easy to get caught up in the other things that you have to do at home or with children, with chores. It's easy to become distracted and not be fully present in what you're working on. And we saw this with our parents even. There were plenty of other things they could be doing. So sometimes it's hard to help them stay connected to the class. So our opportunity was to simply acknowledge that this is an issue and might continue to be an issue, but to keep it on track as much as possible, we just need to provide an hour where parents are in charge. We want them to know that this isn't a lecture. We are going to follow your lead and ensure that you leave feeling fulfilled. So we create support structures that allow parents to drive the content. I show up with some topics or a topic and some slides to complement that for teaching purposes, but there's no robust agenda. I plant plenty of opportunities within that hour for people to discuss amongst each other or complete activities that allow them to engage the content in a different way. And if a parent or if the parents are feeling really compelled with a specific topic, or they want to talk about it more, or for some reason something is really resonating, then getting through the PowerPoint does not matter to me. It's about focusing on what they need at any given time. Doing that allowed them to establish peer support as well, having those opportunities for discussion around things that they felt connected to. Many of them mentioned that parenting is an isolating experience anyway, and even more so when you're, kind of restricted to your own house with your children and not always a lot of other adult contact. And in this specific fall session that I'm doing right now, as I mentioned, we have many ESL parents who have that added barrier of being in a culture that primarily speaks English and still learning. So there's another isolating aspect. So it's nice to be in a room with other adults that kind of share in your experiences and can feel the way that you feel. We've noticed that having those bonded learners really does lead to better retention. Everybody wants to feel like they're a part of something. They want to feel welcomed. So to do that, we maintain a space where they can feel welcomed, feel safe, feel encouraged, and to ensure that they are feeling that way, we do weekly check-ins that ask them questions about these things. Do you feel your question was answered? Do you feel safe talking here and sharing experiences? Do you feel fulfilled when you left here today? Are you happy that you spent your hour with us? And it's just a quick way for us to make sure that we're doing what it is they want. The really big takeaway of this is that we respond to learner needs first. It's not about what I think you need. It's not about what any of us think you need. It's about what are you telling us that you need? What do you want to hear about? And if we can't do it amongst ourselves, we'll find someone who can. So with that, I will pass you along to the next challenge, which is Elizabeth.
All right, on to challenge 5. So one other challenge that we discovered was that some of our families did not have enough materials at home to engage in literacy activities with their children. So think of that time back in April or May when, for example, libraries were closed. And so access to books were not as easy. Also, all of us were encouraged to stay at home. And so access to materials were also hard. But as we launched the online classes, we wanted to make sure that families felt supported. So an opportunity that we found was to deliver kits to the families that we served. So we brainstormed as a group about the actual materials that we thought were going to be of use to both parents and children. We wanted to be intentional, of course, with these materials, and we oriented our thinking and thought of materials that were appropriate for families who had specifically young children. This is during the first first round. So among the materials that we included in that first kit were a binder with the welcoming letter, of course, the ASQ document, a picture book, a dry erase pad, writing materials, Play-Doh, chalk, crayons, some talking, teaching resources. As we rolled out the classes, we referenced, of course, these materials in relation to whatever topic we were discussing in the class. At that time, we discovered that the parents who attended actually had multi-age children. And so, for example, they would have like an elementary age children as well as a middle schooler. So from this observational data, we, again, being intentional with our decisions, we adjusted and selected new materials for the second round to go into the kit. So again, we still had the ASQ, the binders, the writing materials such as Play-Doh, chalk, again, talking is teaching resources, but we also included text or books that catered to different ages. And more recently, so on our third round, again, we want to be more intentional. So for the third kit, we're thinking of including these multi-generational materials for both parents and children to engage with. Back to you, Taylor.
So the sixth challenge that we're going to talk about is that families do not feel empowered to lead work for themselves and other families. This was a challenge that I hold very close to myself between my social work background. Empowerment is something that is very important to me. And furthermore, it's the vision of the KLC. We acknowledge that if they don't feel empowered to use the skills and knowledge, then we're not doing our full job. Learners needed to see that they already have skills and tools that they can build on. And parents early on mentioned wanting to have a space that they could learn advocacy both for themselves and for other families, on top of wanting to continue learning and building on the skills that they've built throughout our class and being involved in a parent community. They also mentioned that their time is limited, of course, so they want to be able to control their involvement. Much like our class, it needed to be something that they could come on a week and miss a different week if needed. They shouldn't feel restricted and contracted to an engagement of 12 weeks or whatever the case is, a minimum hours. It needs to be something that's flexible and can, fit their schedule whenever they need it to be. So the opportunity was to join forces with the Great Start Collaborative to build a parent coalition. So when we decided to do this, Great Start Collaborative already had an established parent coalition, and it's countywide. So it made sense for us to work together and impact more parents without duplicating the efforts in our respective organizations. Both organizations have unique strengths and assets. So by combining efforts, we were able to serve our families best. This parent coalition meets 2 times a month, but it's only one meeting really. There's one in the evening and one in the morning of a similar meeting. So much like our class, parents can attend. It's an hour. They can come to either one. They could come to both, or they could come to neither, because if they are expressing involvement, they will get a recap of what was covered, the activities, and the ability to engage with whatever it was throughout the month before the next meeting. So they have plenty of opportunities to work on whatever the parent coalition is working on, even outside of a scheduled meeting time. With the parent coalition, it's all about involvement in parent-led initiatives. So we make sure that we help them work on whatever it is they want to work on. So in the past, they have done vaccine brochure reviews. So a local hospital came to them to ask that they review a brochure that was intended to be accessible for any family, just your regular family. And so our parents reviewed it first to ensure that it was something that anyone could read and feel comfortable reading and know what is happening, or know who to ask if they had more questions past the brochure. The most recent project, they've been building a parent accessible website where people can log on and interact with the different events that are available, the different services. So if they're looking for something specific, such as childcare, food, housing, whatever it is, they can actually click in that specific icon and figure out what organizations right now can help them. Who do they contact? They get a name of a person that they can ask for, as well as their contact information. And then there are people like myself or others at Great Start who can actually work with them to contact that person if they need. So they know who at these organizations, KLC or Great Start, that they can talk to if they need more help. It's not, you just do this by yourself. It's, we can help you if you need. So that was something fantastic that we've been able to do, and we've met a couple times and we'll continue meeting in January. And Elizabeth.
All right, so last but not least, challenge number 7. So as we tried to cater to the family's needs and interests, we found ourselves not in the best position to lead some of the topics. So these topics included digital literacy, child resilience, learning on the go, assessing children's developmental milestones are just a few. So we found an opportunity here. So since we are not experts in these areas, well, first of all, that did not stop us from offering the classes. Instead, what we did was we invited experts who were very gracious and enthusiastic to share their knowledge with the families that we served. And the best part here is that we were able to build partnerships along the way. So just a few examples, of course, from Goodwill, we have Kim, who lovingly, graciously shared her expertise and time. Our friends from the library from Portage and Kalamazoo, our Talking is Teaching partners, Read and Write Kalamazoo, the YWCA on child resilience, excuse me. My colleague, Dr. Laura Tykert from Western Michigan University, to talk about digital literacy in early childhood settings. Of course, Great Start Collaborative. There's also one who talked about who is an outpatient therapist from Family and Children's Services. So these are just some, maybe I'm missing a whole lot more. But the thing is that these connections allowed us to serve even more families and made our work more impactful. So yes, those are the 7 challenges and opportunities that we just shared with you. At this point, you can see that there's quite a lot. And what we want to emphasize here is that it's not easy to offer parent literacy classes virtually, especially during a pandemic. And probably you may be able to relate at some level with any one of these challenges. But what we want to emphasize really is that the opportunities outweighed the challenges. So instead of wondering, are we going to do this, or if we are going to do this, we were really focusing on how we are going to do it, so that such that it really cultivated a sense of determination and really some creativity on our part to just keep going. So with that, I'd like to have Taylor tell us a bit more about what is to expect with the future parent literacy classes.
Thank you. So in 2020, we went from serving just a handful of families to serving over 70, but there are still many that need us, and we are committed to serving them. So I want to discuss with you what our plans for the future are that will help us to expand service and increase the impact that we have in our community. So the first thing is partnering with El Concilio for a Spanish-led parent literacy. So we still want to aid in the English language acquisition. That is typically the primary goal of the class attendees. However, we know that they need these things right now to be able to support their children's education. And if they're primarily speaking Spanish, they still may need some instruction in Spanish that will allow them to kind of make the connections that will allow them to connect to the teachers or understand what is being asked of them in homework or in something that they need to send back to the school. So in partnering with El Concilio, we have a gracious volunteer who can help me create these lessons in Spanish with English language competencies so that they are better able to support their children who are attending schools in English right now. The next thing is a family reunification curriculum. So we've been working with local family drug treatment court, even in the past in things like our GED program or our JOBS program. And we wanted to expand that to parent literacy because family reunification is a huge aspect of the success of someone once they leave these treatment courts. And it's something that is likely going to happen and is very shocking and can be a trigger if not prepared. So we've been working with the Family Treatment Court as well as DHHS to figure out how to have a successful family reunification curriculum that really outlines what the families need during that process. So early in 2021, that will be something that we're able to launch and start inviting those parents into as a means of supporting that process and having the most amount of success and support that they need while going through that process. The third and possibly my favorite is to launch an e-learning platform for self-paced learning. So our other programs have self-paced learning options. ESL has Burlington English. Our GED track program has the Expressways to Access Plato platform, but parent literacy doesn't have anything yet. You can come to the live class or work one-on-one outside of class times, but it's sometimes harder to get that information, even if you're so busy and can't make it to those type of live quotation mark meetings. So we want to have an e-learning platform where parents can log on and see recorded sessions, have multi-generational activity ideas that they can do structured around specific topics, access handouts, and amongst other things. So we're using Canvas to build this out, and then parents will be taught how to use it and taught how to log on, make sure that they're feeling proficient so that they can really learn anytime, anywhere in the aspect of parent literacy. This is just another way for us to access more parents and fit into those busy schedules that we talk so much about. And the last is to partner with the Boys and Girls Club to increase our impact. So they are already serving numerous families and serving families that we may not be serving yet, and we know they exist and could benefit from this service. So we are partnering with the Boys and Girls Club to expand our services into those families. And as an opportunity when we are in a physical world, once again, it will give us space to really have that parent and child together time that successful family literacy programs have. So with that, we can open it up to questions.
All right. Hey again, everyone. Please do go ahead and use the chat to ask questions of any of our presenters. And if you need us to jump back to a slide or two for reference, that's no problem. I do have a question. Guys, can you talk a little bit about the kits that were sent out? I believe through the partnership with Great Start Collaborative, there was a component of the program that involved, the activity kit. Can you talk a little bit more about those and exactly how those were used?
Taylor, I'd like you to jump in here anytime, okay? So the first iteration, since we were closely trying to match the kits with the families that we were going to serve during that first round, we were focusing more on the simple materials that parents can engage with their child at home. And so again, like we said, like there were learning on-the-go resources. So these are materials that parents may have conversations at home with their child. We included a picture book that, again, during that time, we were thinking maybe used with very young children, writing materials that, could be used easily. That's why we included the chalk that could be used, maybe outside their driveway, on the ground, or some that dry erase pad. Now in the class, when we finally met with the parents, we would refer to the materials that we sent home. So for example, that Pete the Cat text that you see in the screen, we referenced that when we discussed how to simply read aloud to your child. So what are some ways to discuss the story, ask questions during the story, think about vocabulary. So these are what we were thinking during that time is that these materials are not just like, okay, we're dropping them off and it's up to you how you're going to use them. We reference them in class on how we might be able to help parents in using these materials. Same with the learning on the go materials. So I'd like to invite Taylor to describe how else for the second round, how the materials were used.
I think the main thing I want to highlight is the multi-generational aspect, which was really the driving force behind the kits. So in an in-person family literacy program, there's often parent and child together time where they're separated to work on similar activities, and then they can come together with the parent kind of leading the activity with their child. In 1 hour a week of a virtual class, we don't really have the opportunity to do something like that. So our way of including that multi-generational time together often used the materials in this kit, and we would in class have what we were calling a your turn, which is homework without calling it homework, but it's a way for them to practice what we talk about in class using materials. So we give them materials to know that they have what they need to complete the activity. And usually whatever it is, we give some sort of structure. So when we did the learning on the go, we spent the duration of the class talking about, what are you already doing? What do you do when you're in the kitchen to, learn with your child in an everyday experience? What do you do when you're at the park? And most of them were like, oh yeah, I guess I do that. But if there was a new idea maybe they never thought of, they could use something in the kit, and the structured your turn activity with that was to create a new learning on the go experience. Here's what you should think about when you're creating it, and then here's what you should reflect on. So when we come together next week, we'll talk about what that experience is like. So they still have the opportunity to participate with their children in these activities, and we have the kits to give them both ideas of how to use it with their children, but also just to know that they do have the things, at least they have some sort of materials, if nothing else, to participate with their children. So that was extremely important for us. And we also were able to customize handouts to different families if they had specific questions about something that maybe wasn't necessarily a class topic, but still very important and important to them. I could find something and make sure that it went to a specific parent so that they were still getting them, and we could talk outside of class if needed.
Yeah, and one more thing that came to my mind was when Kim, and please Kim, elaborate more, the use of the ASQ and so the ASQ is the ages and stages questionnaire, as well as the KPS expectations. Kim, would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, so inside the Parent Literacy Together binder that is sitting there on that second photo, yep. Inside that, we put examples of those ASQ. So a parent isn't going blind when we're talking about those in the lessons. We're walking them through the questions that are on that and how to answer it. And then at the end of that, also giving them guidance on scoring, looking at the scores and writing down the concerns. So that's where that teaching component came in about, what does this mean? How did you do this? What does this mean? And what are my next steps? And then in addition, we also included in there the KPS, those that Kalamazoo Public Schools, their strategic planning expectations. So we included both the parent and the student in there. So the parents, what are they expected? What is expected of them, as well as what is expected of their children, whether it be from that 0 to 4, that preschool, kindergarten age, or whether it's grade related. So looking at going over that and then sharing with them what that looks like and how to talk to your teacher, how to get in touch with your teacher and have a better conversation, so you can make sure that you are being the best advocate for your children. And the other thing I wanted to point out that didn't have anything to do with this is our parents, our adult that we're working with, none of them had to come pick up these books. This package, we have this great, amazing person. His name is, he's a director of the Kalamazoo Literacy Council, Michael Evans. We put these packets together, or these kids together, and he'd get in his car and he'd get his GPS going, and he literally delivered all of these kits to the parents. And he said one of the great things about delivering him is, one, he got to meet them face to face. So, that missing component, but the facial expressions, the happiness when they open up the door and they see that they get this big kit and they're going to be able to work with their children. So it's priceless.
Yes, you beat me to that, Kim. I was going to say shout out to Michael for making the delivery of the kits possible, but you made it more interesting by saying, like, he got into his car, turned on his GPS. It's really very visual to me, but no, it's true. It's a simple gesture, but at the same time, I feel like this is also one way that we got to connect with the parents. Again, thank you to Michael for making that possible.
Yeah. As he said, face-to-face social distancing with a mask.
Yes, that's right.
Wonderful.
We have some questions prepared. Taylor, do you mind skipping to that slide?
And there's actually, before you guys jump into there, there's
okay.
actually one that came through the Q&A.
Okay.
Taylor, you touched on following up with the parents. So this kind of goes to that point. What was an example of a parent putting what they learned to use in their family? Do you have any other examples?
Yes, most definitely. A lot of the your turn aspects would come kind of at the end of a lesson to recap what we might have done with the parents during the class time. So at one point we would talk about, I think we did goal setting. So we used like the goal ladder, if you've ever seen that. So we constructed that with parents during the class and then taught them about having a conversation with your child to help them construct a goal ladder. And we have used the KPS strategic plan, as Kim mentioned, so that they could find their specific age group. So we taught them, in the class, we showed, what are you looking for? What does this mean to you? And we just used some examples of people that were in the class to find age groups. But then they were then encouraged, since they had the copy at their own home, to look at their specific age groups and figure out what kind of activities can they do that would support the expectations of the school. And then in turn, figuring out what you should expect of the school yourself, and knowing how to communicate that with the teacher. So we did writing an email to the teacher and including your child in that conversation. So we covered like parent teacher conferences, and requesting a meeting and how to engage your children in that, because it's their learning, and as they get older, they should be an integral part of that as well. Those are the first ones that came to mind. Is that enough?
All right, I think if there aren't any questions right now, we can move into the next slide. So we were curious about some of the challenges that some of our attendees have also encountered when working with families during this pandemic, and how we could, or have you turned them into opportunities. So if you don't mind typing like a keyword or two or a phrase into the chat box, so we'll be able to collectively look at these challenges and then learn from each other.
Mhm.
Right now, we encourage you to share any challenges that you have encountered when working with families. I don't see anything in the chat right now, so that's making me think that we covered all the challenges that are possible. I don't think that sometimes I think we've encountered quite a lot of challenges, but I'm sure there are other challenges that may be quite unique to other people's settings, and that we will learn from each other, just how you've problem solved through these challenges. Motivation, yes, motivating families to attend the classes while everything else is going.
Right. Trying to stay focused on the learning and staying motivated on the learning, and to get through assignments, or get not really so much assignments, but to get through activities can be a challenge when there's so many other distractions, right, and other sort of issues that are pulling our attention in one way or the other. So I think you guys have done an amazing job in encouraging our families, both through the class discussions themselves, but also things like giving them physical pieces to work with, and making sure that they, for example, through the laptop loaning program, making sure that we're able to supply laptops that help to bridge the digital divide. I think collectively, you guys have just done an amazing job in really structuring a program with so many different components that really encourages this multi-generational learning, and really driving hard on parent literacy.
Thank you. Well, another thing I can think of might be not just the technology that Kito alluded to, the devices, for example, where the council is able to loan laptops or devices, but also the connectivity. So some of our parents may not have that strong internet connection, which could be a constraint on their side. And so we are constantly thinking of ways on how to support these families, because even if we've planned all these classes and provided materials. If internet connection is a problem, then we need to go uh, uh, an extra step to make sure that they are able to access. So access is definitely a challenge.
Yep, and we had another one come in as a challenge when both parents of young school-age children work outside the home.
Yes, for sure, that is a challenge. Taylor, Kim, do you recall classes when we would have parents have multi-age children in the background?
Most definitely. Absolutely.
And I think
This-
one way you guys managed that and turned it into an opportunity was having the class set for evenings and having parents, chime in and say, this is the time that I can commit to. So having that evening class probably helped to kind of alleviate a bit of that challenge.
But I think it also serves as, you have your children running around in the background, but you're also, I mean, you're in class, you're learning, you're role modeling for your children that are at home. But in the most important part, I believe, is that if the children wanted to wave and say hi or sit there in the class, I mean, it was like they were learning as well.
And also I recall that one class where the parent had to turn off the camera because it was probably not conducive to engaging. I don't know, there were probably different reasons. I mean, turning on the camera might also affect the bandwidth or the connection. So that's definitely a possibility. But we were trying to adjust to different families' context. So if they didn't want to turn on their camera, that's totally fine. And if some parents turn on their camera on and off during the class, it was fine too. So we try to be really flexible with different contexts and conditions that our families had. And I think that's just part of showing grace and giving grace to individuals during these difficult times. Here's another thought we had. What are some ideas that resonated with most of you and why? So I'd like to invite everybody to type in the chat some of the ideas that resonated the most. Not sure what your thoughts are, but
Here's one from Jackie. She's saying the idea about content being parent driven and allowing the parents to decide sort of what that curriculum is or what some of those curriculum components are. I think that also goes back to our point about motivation and encouragement, right? Feeling that there's some ownership and really allowing them to have a clear and decisive voice in what the curriculum is really helps to keep interest.
thank you for sharing that.
And then also from Michael, teaching parents virtually is possible if you're willing to adapt. So it sounds like our parents were flexible and, excuse me, flexible and really willing to step maybe out of their comfort zones a little bit to be adaptable to this new normal and to learn these new ideas.
Thanks, Michael, for emphasizing that. That is so true. I know that in our next slide, what do we have, Taylor, up next? Oh, okay. We have come to that point in our in our session. We're almost at the end, actually. So we've developed or thought of this challenge to opportunity raffle, where what we really want to emphasize here is like to somehow represent our work, that how we have turned all these challenges that we face into opportunities. So just to make it more memorable for everybody, for you, we are raffling off these items right here. So what we've done is during the earlier part of the presentation, I wrote down the names of the participants based on the participant tab right here. I think I've captured everybody except for if you're working with the council, then you are not part of the raffle. I'm sorry to say. But anyway, we really thank everybody for attending. So how do we do this? I'm gonna put in your names into a box right here. And then we're gonna raffle off the first one. Kim, would you like to describe the first?
I would.
Okay.
So this first raffle is about that learning on the go materials. It was that first picture. These items will hopefully serve as a reminder that families do not have to go out of their way to learn or to find time for literacy. They're already doing it in their day-to-day activities. And I'm going to give you a drum roll, Elizabeth. So that you
just
get to
trying to
draw the names, and the winner is.
Okay, I wish I had somebody here to draw it. Like, I'm just trying to mix everything here. All right, I believe I
Okay.
have like 27 something names here. Okay, so for the first raffle, the winner is Chris K. Chris K, I think from our participant list here.
Yay.
Chris K is not here. I'm not sure. Chris.
Mhm.
All right, so I probably would have to draw another one. All right. Ben, do we have Ben here? Ben, yes. So,
Ben.
yay, congratulations to Ben. We will mail off or deliver, depending on where you live, deliver the learning on the go materials to your, to make sure that you get it. All right. Taylor, would you like to describe?
No, I would. The next raffle is going to be for the Empowered Parents Pack. So the picture you saw of the mug and the cocoa and a journal is an item or a pack that will hopefully serve as an inspiration for us to empower families, for us to support parent-led initiatives and coalitions, because parents have voices and thoughts and ideas, and they're all wonderful, and we need to give them space for that to grow. And what better way to do that than in the comfort with some cocoa?
All right. So the winner is Pearl. Pearl, are you with us? Are you here? Yes, you are. So please get a hold of us, reach out, and then we will make sure that the package is delivered to you. Congratulations. And then the last raffle item is books for different ages. This item will hopefully serve as a reminder that when working with families with multi-age children, we need to think about the specific interests of children and even adults if we want to think multi-generational here and align these book choices, text choices with both parents and children's interests. So the winner is Mary Jo. Is Mary Jo here? Jo. Mary Jo is not here, so I'll, earlier she was, so I'll have to pick another winner. Laurel Lee. Laurel Lee, you are here. Thank you for staying and joining our session. Congratulations. We'll reach out, or if you can reach out and provide your contact information, we'll make sure that the package is delivered. Taylor?
Wonderful.
Before we close out, we just wanted to end with inviting you to our parent literacy forum. So if this is something that interests you or you work around families, you should definitely be at the parent literacy forum. It's a way for you to connect with other professionals that also work with families. So it is monthly, every fourth Friday from 1:30 to 3 p.m. virtually via WebEx. And I'm going to also have our contact information on the next slide. Please reach out and we will make sure that you get the link to join us. We'd love to see you there. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming.
you.
Enjoy the rest of the symposium. We'll see you
Thank
later.
you, guys. Thank you, Kim, Taylor, and
you.
Elizabeth. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. For all participants, we're just going to take a quick 5-minute break. Feel free to stretch, grab a glass of water or a coffee refresh, and take about 5 minutes, and then we'll start the next session at 11:05. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you very much.